Hi, and welcome to the conference room, an interactive book club where each week we discuss, analyse, and predict based on a group of chapters we've just read. I'm Matthew, who Kindle streaks competitively against no one.
I'm
I'm
Zak.
Liam.
Did we choose the order beforehand?
We did. I always thought Zak was last.
Yeah, I just went down the list.
I didn't.
Exactly.
I've not looked at the itinerary.
Zak literally has forgot how to read. Factually accurate.
Right, do we redo that?
We're going from the top.
Go from the top, take it from the top.
Take two, boys.
Hi, and welcome to the conference room, an interactive book club where each week we discuss, analyse, and predict based on a group of chapters we've just read. I'm Matthew, who Kindle streaks competitively against no one.
I'm Liam, the would-be author who can barely spell.
And I'm Zak, the audible opportunist who's forgotten how to read.
We welcome you to join us in a book club where one week you're a god, the next you're a peasant. So I'm rushing ahead a little bit here. We did have a little tournament of books, so to speak. So we all gave ourselves a little bit of homework to go away, pick a couple of fantasy books, bring them to each other, and then pitch them to each other. And then Zak created a little bracket which you might be able to get up on the stream. I've not got stream open, Zak. Is that up on the stream?
We're good to go. Yeah. So
up on the stream.
We pitted all of the books against each other. Each time, somebody won, got through to the next round. We did a little vote. There's 3 of us, so there was never an odd one out. So yeah, let's just run through those, and we'll give a quick overview. So the Goblin Emperor, was that one of Liam's?
Yeah, I believe I put that forward. I think the reason why I put that forward was because it was a standalone book. So it was one book we didn't have to worry about. Depending on what way we was going to do this, we didn't have to worry about sequels for it. So it would have been a nice, and it was obviously like quite well rated, but it would have been a nice sort of like beginning, middle, and end, rather than say, I don't know how long it takes to read. Say you've got a 10 book series. Obviously, it's a lot of time and investment. This I thought would have been a nice little sort of filler book. But sadly, it didn't win.
But you never know; it might come back in the next tournament. And then the next one up was The King of the Golden River, which was one I put forwards. Again, very short. It's a novella, but it's considered by many to be the first fantasy book. So yeah, get to the roots of it all. And next up, we've got The Name of the Wind.
The Name of the Wind, the eventual winner, to be fair. And I think we all knew that quite early on. It was one of those where we pitched it to each other. Shame it wasn't recorded, but pitched it to each other. And I think once I've sort of finished it, we all knew where this table was going to head. So I think we'll go into that one a little bit later. If you just go to Legacy of Ash. Was that you again, Liam? If I remember right, was this the one you just picked up off a shelf and was like, this one?
No, I don't think it was. I think that one.
Was it not that one?
Yeah, I don't think I put forward Legacy of. I might have put forward Legacy of Ash. If I
Actually,
did,
no, you might not have because you. I think you did because Zak did sufficiently advanced magic.
Yeah, I put forward 2.
Right.
I think you two put forwards 3 each.
If I did, I can
literally is the one you just picked up. I need a third one.
I'm pretty sure that's what's happened. I can genuinely not remember anything about. If you, I don't know. I couldn't tell you who's wrote it. I couldn't tell you the basic story of it. I must have just panicked and got one off of Google quickly.
So you can sort of see why Name of the Wind got through that round so convincingly.
Yeah.
That was Liam's pitch.
Yeah.
Then we moved on to Sufficiently Advanced Magic, so that's one I put forwards. And it's a classic wizard story, but nowadays you think of wizard stories, you think of Harry Potter. This is aimed at adults. It's a lot grittier, a lot more of a hard magic system. So yeah, I'm hoping this comes back in another bracket later on.
Yeah, I was quite keen on that one. Yeah, I think I was into that. If it wasn't against my Dresden Files, I would have put that through. Dresden Files, though, is also one that I really, really want to read. Just over the Christmas break where we weren't doing this, I was just trying to think of little standalone readings to do to keep ticking over, keep my streaks up. And I was tempted to read this, but I thought we might come back to it. Real popular book, it's known to everyone. It's just the appeal to me was the fact that it was a 21st century sort of setting, whereas typically fantasy is known as medieval kind of thing. It's just a detective who goes around like Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of thing. Apparently starts off quite cheesy, but then gets quite dark, and as I think it's like 17 book series or something now. But I think why people love it so much is that you can see from the earlier books and stuff he was doing sort of all come into fruition like 15, 17 books later. So yeah, into it, but
It's
I'll put
another
Zach's through.
it's another series that's got like a huge following as well, right?
Yeah. And one of the series that the worst book of the series is actually the first one. People sort of say, whereas normally it's the other way.
Then we've got the
Yeah.
ninth Reign up.
Yeah, so that was the one I got off the shelf. And if I'm honest, the reason why I chose that book was because I already had the book.
Save a bit of money.
Save a bit of money. I don't have to worry about going on Amazon. Yeah, so
Liam, that's why you need a Kindle. 99p books. I'm telling you, I look every single day, daily deals.
yeah, I suppose. But yeah, so that book, I mean, I don't want to diss it or anything, but I'm pretty sure I read the blurb and I wasn't too keen anyway, so I'm pretty sure I gave the win to.
I think that is when you started reading it. It was like, I don't even want to finish the blurb. I'm looking at this bracket in a different light now because I'm considering the books I was against, and they're both Liam's, and Liam didn't want to read them himself, so my book's got a pass to the final. Yeah, you could argue it was fixed.
And then so last one,
Gentlemen
up then.
Bastards.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, Gentlemen Bastards really interesting. Yeah, I think the first one's Lies of Locke Lamora. Can't remember too much about it, to be fair. I think he was a bit like you were saying about Sufficiently Advanced Magic, sort of more standard fantasy, but it's a bit grittier. I think it was a bit like Ocean's 11 as well. So they were trying to do a heist, but involving some kind of powers and things like that. So yeah, Mighty Books made it to the final, arguably because I was up against Liam, but we sort of ended up with Name of the Winds. Name of the Winds being well, potential trilogy, but once we settled in this, I started looking into Name of the Wind a bit more. I didn't realise the controversy surrounding the author because he's been writing this third one for like a decade now or something crazy like that.
So the Wise Man,
didn't.
The Wise Man's Fear was the second one, and that came out in 2011. And The Doors of Stone, which is the third one, was expected to like literally follow like a couple of years later.
It hasn't came.
No, there's all sorts of conspiracies. Did you read about those, Matt?
Yeah, I had a little look into it. I saw some live stream as well where apparently he was. I don't want to say too much about it because I'm not too clued up, but he was almost like raising money for some kind of charity by reading a couple chapters, and yeah, there's just a load of dodgy stuff surrounding it. I'm just scared it's going to be a George R. Martin thing where we just never get the third one.
Is it that sort of level of like this book is never getting done, or is it just?
He's adamant he's going to get it done, but he's been saying that for and he's only got to write one book where George R. Martin's got to tie up like a million plot lines.
Yeah.
Although saying that, we're not too clued up on what the plot lines are. I don't know if he's written himself into a corner or anything like that.
Well, this is one of the other crazy theories on the internet, is that he had like a ghostwriter writing for him, and something's happened to that ghostwriter, and he just can't finish the book because he didn't write it.
No way!
That's one of the theories.
But
that would be insane.
What would be? I mean, but what would be? What's in it for the ghostwriter? Like, why?
Well, I don't know. Like, he got ill or something, and yeah, who knows? Like,
but what I mean is that why would you not? Because I've seen a picture of Patrick Rothfuss. It's not like he's a poster boy, you know. What's that
got to do with a ghostwriter?
This is how Liam doesn't know what a ghostwriter is.
No, but why would you? No, I'm not thinking it's a literal ghost. No, but why would you? Why would you like? I don't understand. Like, because you don't really. I mean, I'm assuming the role of a ghostwriter is because you don't necessarily want the fame of being an author.
I think that's one reason, but I think it could also be like, you know, it's getting someone else to almost proofread it, but then going a step further and getting someone else to write it. It could be that he had a level of fame that was good enough to sell the books, but then he wanted someone else to actually write the books. Maybe it was just to save time, or.
Okay. So these ain't his breakout books then. I'm assuming these ain't his like the name of the book. Enough ones before this, because otherwise, why would a nameless man need a ghostwriter? If that makes sense. But I don't know.
I don't know too much about Patrick Rothfuss either. This is all I know him for. But same could be said about George R. Martin. To be honest, I bought one of his book on Kindle deals. He had some like vampire stories set on a boat, which I never knew him to do. So I don't know. Maybe that's something we can look into with Patrick Rothfuss. But yeah, he's still quite active. He Twitch streams. Maybe we should get him on next episode. Let's ask him some of these questions.
Yeah,
a little cheeky episode 2 collaboration.
I think, to be honest, I think it's just that classic thing that happens. Like, he's written 2 books, they've absolutely blown up. He's now like so busy, and he's got other exciting things in the pipe works. So, for example, I know that they're pretty confident a film's coming out, TV series, video games. The TV show seems pretty like set in stone, because I've read that it's going to be co-produced by, I think there's like a team of 3 people, but one of those is Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he's also he's also going to be composing the music for it.
Jesus,
that is going to get exciting. I like the sound of that. And I think it's one of these things as well. Like I said, I've not read the books, but I know Patrick Rothfuss, like his writing style, what I've read online at least, is supposed to be like very poetic, and every word is there for a meaning. So he's a bit of a perfectionist, really like analyzes himself and what he's saying. So I think it's one of these things where if he's wrapping it up in a trilogy, he wants it to be perfect. He's going over every single word like a fine-tooth comb, releasing it to get a backlash. And it's also a series, when I'll go into the stats and stuff in a second, is like incredibly highly thought of. And maybe the George R. Martin thing, again, to bring him up again, he's seen the backlash he got from how the series ended. Maybe he doesn't want that, and that to be how this book's remembered.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's a lot of pressure, like releasing the book, especially when you got all the critics out there.
I was just looking, actually, prepping to read the prologue a second. It's just come up to, like what's it called? The dedications to a book. It's like to my mother and all of that.
Yeah.
One bit he says, and to my father, who taught me that if I was going to do something, I should take my time and do it right. Maybe it's all a massive gag, and he's just set these audience up for this from day one. I'm going to take my time. Yeah. But no, so gone to those ratings. Goodreads. Where is the Goodreads? Well, on Reddit website, the 3 of us go on religiously. They did a poll, I think it's a couple of years out of date now, but it was rated the 9th best fantasy book of all time. Like I said, Brandon Sanderson, I think it's fair to say our favourite author. Is that a fair comment, boys?
Underestimated.
See, me and Liam have had a couple discussions, because he is mine, Zach, and he is yours. Liam's not too sure.
I don't mind. I've got nothing wrong with him. I mean, I've read many books. I've read probably about 10 of his books, so there's nothing there. I don't know. I mean, you've got to put him up there. I wouldn't necessarily say the issue is you're going to ask me who is, and I'm going to say I don't know. But I wouldn't necessarily put him up there as the best of all time, if that makes sense. But I don't know who replaces it, so it's not coming out of anything. There's stuff on it. Not all of his books appeal to me. Let's put it that way. Some of the books I've read, not all of them have appealed to me in the past. But that's not to say that he's not brilliant, if that makes sense. There's a lot of books I like a lot more than I dislike.
I love the guy. I've not read
like
a book
genre
of his
thing, isn't it?
I mean,
I've not read a book of his I don't love, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
I squeezed in a high recommendation, again going off track a little bit, but I think it was one of his early attempts at YA or something like that. It's a standalone at the minute. The Rhythmatist.
Yeah,
that's
I
what you
love that. I think that was free to download as well.
Oh, I had it on my Kindle deal, so I was trying to squeeze in one more book before the end of the year. I wanted to round up my Kindles to 20. That's how bad I am with the Kindle streaks. But I read that. I couldn't put it down. I absolutely loved that book.
This is what I love about all of his books. They just come together perfectly. Like different storylines, just boom, just for that perfect.
Yeah. and it's always in such an ending. You're like, it's better than you expected it to be. Like bringing all these plot lines together, he always does it in a way. I'm like, that's better than I thought you could have done it.
So there we go. We all bone Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah,
But
100%.
We're
So
here for Patrick Rothfuss today.
if
The name of the
but
wind.
if Brandon recommends a book, that's a book I'm interested in. So when I saw that piqued my interest. Goodreads, 860,000 ratings, average score of 4.5. Rarely see a book over like 4.2 on there. And fantasy book review 9.5 out of 10. A couple of comments I saw online when I was looking into fantasy books. Brandon Sanderson's coming up again, but a quote saying, excluding any book written by Brandon Sanderson, it's one of the easiest fantasy to read. It was said to be the most highly anticipated sequel, more so than Winds of Winter and The Next Stormlight. And a couple just things I heard about it. It seemed a bit quite interesting in that it was, I think it's a flashback. So we introduced this character. We need to agree how we're going to pronounce his name in a second. But this guy, and it's almost at the end of his life, and then we sort of reliving his journey together, but through his eyes live. So every time you see something as the reader, it's the first time the guy we're reading from sort of seeing it. And also one I really liked was, imagine you read one of the best stories ever told by the protagonist himself, who is also one of the best liars.
Yeah,
so makes it interesting for predictions and things like that when we get to it, because just don't take everything what you expect it to be, I guess.
Unreliable narrator.
Yeah, I've never read a book like that, so yeah, something different. But yeah, that is pretty much all I know about that book. So I've just heard raving reviews. I don't know about the content. I don't know if there's a magic system. In my head, I'm imagining it to be a bit like The Witcher, but I don't really know why I've got that sort of conception in my head. I'm imagining this sort of like lovable rogue type of guy.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Should we bust through the blurb and then have a little chat?
Yes.
So, how to pronounce a name? I googled this, and I believe it's Kvoth.
Kvoth.
Yeah. Ignore the E, and it's just Kvoth.
Right.
Okay.
So, the issue with the blurb is it's just all speech. So, do I have to do the voices?
You got voices in mind already? I don't normally hear the voice until a couple chapters in.
It's tough. It's like that's what I'm struggling with. Like, I'm imagining this like manly, like potentially powerful wizard thief man. What does that sound like?
I feel like you need to go to the opposite of what that is now. You need to go like Weasley. No, I'm joking.
I have been called Kvoth the Bloodless, Kvoth the Arcane, and Kvoth the Kingkiller. I have earned those names and bought and paid for them. But I was brought up as Kvoth. My father once told me it meant to know. I have, of course, been called many other things, most of them uncouth, although very few unearned. I have stolen princesses back from sleeping barrow kings. I burned down the town of Trebon. I have spent the night with Felurian and left with both my sanity and my life. I was expelled from a university at an age younger than most people are allowed in. I tread paths by moonlight that others fear speak of during the day. I have talked to gods, loved women, written songs that make the minstrels weep. You may have heard of me. Sounds like a bullshitter to me. What gets me is he says,
the most talented guy ever.
Yeah, maybe somewhere in between. What gets me is he says, I have talked to gods in the same sentence as loved women, like, and written songs. Like, those three things aren't comparable.
Yeah. What do you rate highest though?
Loved women. I'm atheist, so you know.
Yeah.
No, it is interesting. You mentioned like arcane, so there's going to be some kind of magic system in there, isn't there?
It's a lot to take in. So
Yeah.
Left with
We've got no
Felurian.
context around these things, yeah.
Spent the night with Felurian and left with both my sanity and my life. Like, yeah, there's definitely elements of magic and...
So, obviously, I don't assume we're doing predictions yet, but do you reckon Felurian is a something or a someone?
I reckon it is a kind of like woman demon-y kind of thing.
Yeah, some sort of siren type thing.
Yes, siren is exactly the word I was sort of looking for there. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I guess it's just one of them things. It's, again, I think maybe that's what's giving me the Witcher vibes. Is I think we can have lots of sort of like creatures and things in the night and blah blah blah. He's just going to go on his journey, sort of
Yeah.
fighting these things. Like, yeah, I remember actually talking about that university bit. One of the things had said compared it to Harry Potter. So I had the Harry Potter kind of school, but set in a Game of Thrones kind of world. So I love that. I hope it is going to be as sort of cutthroat as Game of Thrones is.
Yeah, because I do
yeah,
love a. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
No, I do love a dark element in my fantasy. Like I do love it when it's like it don't necessarily need to be surrounded by darkness, but once there's like I don't know, once it goes medieval, there's something about it that like it makes you feel that you're in a fantasy world, you know.
Mm. And the thing I loved about Game of Thrones is just everything was at such high stakes.
Yeah.
And there were like repercussions for your stuff. If you mess something up, you were dead, or something bad was going to happen to you. Like when I was looking back at some stuff, like how Joffrey treated some people and things like that, like it was dark. But I think that was the appeal, really, because anything could happen, and there was no. Yeah.
So, just on like a side note, so you know the music cozy things like the headphones that you can wear to go to sleep on. So they're like headphones. Yeah. So my night one is literally I only read it for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but it's Game of Thrones, right? So like it literally takes me about a year to get through one book because I'm reading it 10 minutes at a time and they're like 50 hours. So I don't get like a lot through it, but like some of the stuff, like I'm on the second book now, some of the stuff that happens in that book, you're like, Jesus Christ. Like there's this, just to show you remember how dark this was, there's this part where Joffrey's still alive, he's in King's Landing, he's like swore to like say like the common folk, and the common folk have gone mental and like started a riot, and they managed to take one of the princesses who's like not a princess but like a lady of like the court, who's I'm pretty sure she's a bit mentally disabled, and basically all the townsfolk just rape her. Like, and that was
Really?
that's just something that happens in it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't even.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. So like, obviously, this doesn't need to be this dark, but it like, I don't know why, but elements of that does make it like does make it real. So yeah.
Yeah, being grounded in that kind of reality, where at any moment, like a big character that you've spent half the book reading might just die, just like the Red Wedding. Like the first time you saw that, he was building up to the Starks winning, and then instantly lost, and everyone's dead. Like, yeah. So I hope it's got some kind of reality in that. That's the kind of book I want to read, and hopefully it is. It's actually a really interesting blurb when you think about it, because it does, or at least for me, really piques my interest. Like that university thing again, he gets expelled from it at a younger age than most people are allowed in. So he's going to be some child prodigy. He probably is too powerful for his own good.
For some reason, I feel like that university is a magic school, but I don't know why I think that. Like, it doesn't actually say that at all.
No, I'm with you though. He's going to be like some farm boy who suddenly like makes a sheep fly, and they're like, "Oh my god, how did you come to this school?" So ridiculous like that, mate. That's a prediction like Liam's Wolfman.
Put it in.
Kavoth makes a sheep fly. Get that in there.
You'll get 10 points if Kavoth makes a sheep fly. If that happens, then okay, that's fair.
I just win the game.
You win already, yeah.
God.
Didn't we say something like that with some outlandish predictions? It's like double points.
Yeah, so what we said is that if we do it so after the prologue's read, we all have to make an outlandish prediction after the prologue's read.
So and that's tonight. That's now then.
Yeah, that's pretty much now. Yeah. So then after that, if one of them predictions come through, then it's like the ultimate sort of like fuckery. You've won.
I'm not sure I want to be held to sheep flying yet. I think let's read the prologue before I get locked into something.
I found another summary, and it's kind of similar to the blurb, but from a bit of a different perspective. So should we have a little listen to that and see if we learn
Yeah, say
anything?
that again.
So I've got another summary, and it's like similar to the blurb in a way, but just gives like another. I don't know where I got it from. Maybe it's someone's like review or something. But so the tale of Kvoth from his childhood in a troupe of travelling players to years spent as a near-feral orphan in a crime-riddled city, to his daringly brazen yet successful bid to enter a difficult and dangerous school of magic. In these pages you will come to know Kvoth as a notorious magician, an accomplished thief, a masterful musician, and an infamous assassin. But this book is so much more, for the story it tells reveals the truth behind Kvoth's legend.
Interesting.
This guy is just like a Swiss Army knife of everything.
Yeah.
This is already the like untrustworthy protagonist, isn't it? There's no way all of this is legit.
Yeah.
I just worked out the ending. I've just written Patrick's book for him. It is literally an old guy in a bar, too drunk, making it all up. That's what it is, and he don't want to release it into the world.
No, I think there's got to be some truth to it, but he's swindling us somehow. I wonder if
He's going to be a dark side, isn't there?
I wonder if he's got a power and he is powerful, but it's almost like he finds people that have done these amazing things and he like takes over their life. You know, maybe he kills them and like takes their takes their fame from them.
If that's not the answer, there's a concept there. Maybe that's something we should branch off on and write that book. I like that idea.
Isn't there a character in Harry Potter that does something similar? Professor Lockhart. He wipes people's memories and
yeah, he was all lies. Yeah.
So I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
Lockhart,
I was almost thinking it's almost Lockhart, but with like a power of Peter Petrelli, just absorbing everyone's gifts or something. Like, I'm into that as well. I'm still waiting for my eclipse to give me my powers. But anyway, prologue. A silence of 3 parts. It was night again. The Waystone Inn lay in silence, and it was a silence of 3 parts. The most obvious part was a hollow, echoing quiet made by things that were lacking. If there had been a wind, it would have sighed through the trees, set the inn sign creaking on its hook, and brushed the silence down the road like trailing autumn leaves. If there had been a crowd, even a handful of men inside the inn, they would have filled the silence with conversation and laughter, the clatter and clamour one expects from the drinking house during the dark hours of night. If there had been music, but no, of course there was no music. In fact, there were none of these things, and so the silence remained. Inside the Waystone, a pair of men huddled at one corner of the bar. They drank with quiet determination, avoiding serious discussions of troubling news. In doing this, they added a small, sullen silence to the larger, hollow one. It made an alloy of sorts, a counterpoint. The third silence was not an easy thing to notice. If you listened for an hour, you might begin to feel it in the wooden floor underfoot and in the rough, splintering barrels behind the bar. It was in the weight of the black stone hearth that held the heat for a long dead fire. It was in the slow back and forth of a white linen cloth rubbing along the grain of the bar. And it was in the hands of the man who stood there, polishing a stretch of mahogany that already gleamed in the lamplight. The man had true red hair, red as a flame. His eyes were dark and distant, and he moved with the subtle certainty that comes from knowing many things. The Waystone was his, just as the third silence was his. This was appropriate. This was appropriate, as it was the greatest silence of the 3, wrapping the others inside itself. It was deep and wide as autumn's ending. It was heavy as a great river's smooth stone. It was the patient cut flower sound of a man who is waiting to die. That is the prologue.
Mysterious, not at all what I was expecting. It was quite calm and not sure about that. What are the silences? Are they like physical things? Are they like types of power or?
That seems like he's describing a very quiet inn.
I feel like I think we're too stupid for this book. I think it's something really profound and we just don't understand it.
It's on a. I see the poeticness coming through there, like I expected, but yeah, maybe I'm not ready for this. I'm sure people would like absolutely adore that because it does sound like it sounds pretty to listen to, but a bit of the meaning gone there. So the three silences. Was literally
we're gonna have to watch like a book review
a podcast. Yeah, mate, they don't exist. That's why we're doing this. We got to get up to speed fast, boys.
Gonna have to learn to read.
No, he's literally saying silence 3 parts. Following echoing quiet made by things that were lacking. No wind. No crowd. No music. Third silence. A ginger man. So Kvoth's ginger, if that's Kvoth.
I feel like I imagined that, you know. I don't know what I'm.
You know what? I did not.
I'm for Kvoth. What I'm basically imagining is if Dumbledore was this like big tough guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That, but weren't expecting Ginge.
Was
and third silence
I'm
was.
imagining the tavern guy, and you know, is it called Bob's Tavern in Hearthstone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Him, but with like big wizard robes, like tattoos up his arms.
Massive beard.
Massive.
Smoking a Gandalf pipe.
I thought you were going to say smoking ganja.
Maybe. Mate, that's what Gandalf is doing.
Oh,
Let's be real here. Yeah, so I think the first silence, I think it's sort of, my interpretation of it is supposed to be quite heavy because it is sort of almost symbolising the silence is there because there's this guy who's towards the end of his life, I'm assuming Kvoth, who has led this loud, chaotic life, and now he's at the end point where he's almost alone in some dingy, I don't know if that's fair to say, dingy bar that he owns by the sounds of it. Just waiting to die, like lived his life. He's probably depressed that he's not got the excitement of his youth anymore. He's just killing time.
Yeah, maybe. I wonder if this prologue is going to reflect like the pace or the shape of the book in some way. So it's like the 3 silences. Maybe the book's going to be broken up into 3 parts. And
3 parts. Yeah, I like that.
I tell you what, we'll do a 50-50 toss up. Yeah. So, is the ginger guy behind the bar Kvoth?
Yeah, nice. I want to say no.
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah.
No? I'll say no as well. I've had it in my mind that it's no, but it might be. But then, because this is prologue, this is not a points level prediction. This is more just a little to whet our appetites, to whet our beaks. So
we've got to get something going based on that, haven't we? Like,
yeah.
Do you not? They seem to.
What's that?
I'm just skim reading it again. I'm surprised you both said no. Why no?
Because he just said he was a ginger guy in a bar. Like, it could be anyone. For all we know, a ginger guy in a bar with a waistline. He might know. Like, it could be literally anyone.
And it was hands to the man who stood there, polishing stretch marking at the Andrew there.
I just can't imagine. So far, all we've read about this Kvoth guy is that he's this absolute action-hungry powerhouse, and now they're talking about him just sitting in the bar in silence. Like, it doesn't sound like him. Unless this is in the future, and he's like, this is his like last days, and he's about to die.
Yeah, that's how I've interpreted it.
Maybe,
I just think
maybe
it seems
this prologue is the like last chapter in the last book.
Yeah, I think it's almost like that. This is the end of Kvoth's story, and now we're gonna hear it from the beginning, like almost like his deathbed sort of retelling, which would make sense actually as to why the story we're about to hear is such bullshit because he's living it back in his heydays. When I went to this school, I was the youngest one ever there. I got kicked out. I was a rebel, and I slept with this god and all of this. Yeah.
Now I want to change my answer.
I'll play devil's advocate. I'll still stick to no. But we'll go. It
does sound like the kind of thing like celebrities do as well. loads of ex-footballers make a load of money, retire, and then buy a bar.
Yeah.
I've talked myself into it. That was my gut, and then I feel like I've justified it enough to myself.
Okay, another prediction then. The guy from the prologue is on his deathbed.
Well, he's not literally because he stood at the bar, but I don't think he's got long left. I'll happily go with that.
No, here's the twist. It's an upright bed.
Oh, he's actually just tied to a pillar or something.
That's all he's got. Is his little cloth on the bar.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's got long left. He's not gonna die like in the next hour, but he's gonna be dead within a year.
We need to read the first 5 chapters. We need some more information.